Zebec recently made a post showcasing how they have over 260 enterprise clients and how they have an annual payroll volume of around $500 million. And they also released a bunch more numbers like how much Zebec is actually being locked up and how much Zebec they have actually reacquired so far. And I'll talk about how I think this can actually impact Zebec in the long term and what I think this means for it in today's video. And I first want to clarify though, I'm not telling anyone to do anything. It's just my personal perspective and nothing I say is financial advice. So if we take a look at it, let's take a look at the first statistic I want to discuss. Over 260 enterprise clients. This is really massive when it comes to Zebec, especially when it comes to the payroll side of things, because this is literally what Zebec is doing to actually survive. In a sense where, unlike some other projects out there that have a treasury and they keep exiting out of that to, go along basically when the market isn't doing the best, Zebec's model is a little bit different in a sense where they're actually surviving through their products and services, not through exiting out of their current treasury or something. That is not the case. So of course, seeing something that is so crucial to their, existence as a project and actually seeing those numbers, I think is actually arguably a pretty good thing, at least for Zebec, right? Because imagine if, let's say, my main business model is selling, potato chips, and let's say my potato chips were selling really good, then that's a good thing, right? Literally what I'm trying to sell in that specific example of potato chips, if it's doing good, then why is that bad? It's like Nike selling a lot of shoes. Isn't that a good thing? So when I take a look at this, I view it no different. Now, we take a look at it as well. Even having over 260 enterprise clients currently in terms of the payroll side of things is quite legendary because other projects out there struggle to get 5 or 10 enterprise clients. This is over 260. This is really massive in my opinion. Now we take a look at it. The annual payroll volume they said was around $500 million. Now, how much of that is actually like net income? I have no idea what is actually being received by Zebec after, all the expenses. Again, who knows? But that's still pretty massive when it comes to the annual payroll volume. Now let's discuss the second aspect when it comes to this, because Zebec also recently identified how around 16 billion Zebec is actually being locked up. Now, what does this even mean? That does not mean dollars, by the way. That's literally talking about like the actual Zebec, right, in terms of the token. Now, if we take a look at it, so approximately as of right now, around 16% of the maximum supply of Zebec is currently being locked up. We have to take this into consideration. Yes, there are other projects out there with a better ratio than that. But if around 16%, so basically almost 20% of the maximum supply is being locked up, that showcases that quite a decent amount could be held for the long term, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because usually that creates a little bit more stability. Now, people like to say, well, Zebec hasn't been holding up the best as of late. Take a look at what it achieved last year at around a 540 million market cap. Now, the market cap, even despite with this around 10% recovery in the past 24 hours, they say, oh, the market cap's still around 200 million. So yes, there's been a slight recovery, but they say that the decrease is still pretty massive. So they say, oh, how can that be considered stable? Well, first of all, Zebec is an altcoin, so it's never going to have the stability of like a Bitcoin or whatever. It just wouldn't. But relatively speaking, if we consider how, if that could impact just a little bit of the stability, I don't see why it's necessarily such a bad thing because a lot of other projects out there are down like over 95% from their peak last year. Zebec's not. Now, again, it's had a decrease, but I think because a lot of it is locked up, it put a little bit of a cushion where it's not as like drastic as some other projects out there. At least that's the way to take a look at it. But even besides that, I'm not telling anyone to do anything. Now, they also identified how around $500 million Zebec has been reacquired. So they have reacquired that. And keep in mind, when they reacquire this Zebec, what is meant by that is that some of it is being held in a treasury and also with Uphold Institutional. So again, people sometimes like to wonder, okay, what is around $500 million Zebec worth as of right now? Now that's approximately worth around $1 million currently. So they have reacquired so far like $500 million Zebec, which currently again is worth around $1 million. Now people like to say, well, That's only like 0.5% of the maximum supply, more or less. Like, why is that a big deal? Well, first of all, usually when a project reacquires like the token like that, it's not going to show an immediate impact. It would be something that would need a sustained effort over many, many years in order to show an impact. But considering how Zebec literally hasn't been around for that long, and seeing how so far they have reacquired 500 million Zebec basically so far, that's quite legendary in my opinion. Now people like to wonder, okay, when they reacquire this, what are they going to do with it? Now, this is a pretty interesting question because as of right now, we don't really know. The reason why I say that is because later on this year, there's going to be a vote to decide what to do with that exactly. Again, what to do with that around 500 million Zebec. Will 100% be burned? I have no idea. Quite possibly. But again, there's going to be a vote later on this year to decide what to do with that. When they reacquire that Zebec, it is no longer a part of the circulating supply, right? Because it's being taken out of that because they're locking it up, basically. They haven't done anything with it yet, at least to my understanding, but they're going to decide what to do with it later. Through a vote, of course, so it's not like Zebec is making all the decisions like that. Again, there's going to be a vote later on to decide what to do with it. But still, that's quite impressive nonetheless. And seeing how, again, Zebec, despite not being such a massive project, this project is not even in the top 120, by the way. I just want to make that clear. It's ranked 128th as of right now when it comes to market cap within this space. It's not a project that's so massive, but seeing those type of statistics, seeing that effort, seeing what they're trying to do, it's quite legendary. And need I remind people, they recently added a new chain, right, which is Stellar. And allegedly, through the new chain that was added when it comes to Stellar, in terms of the enterprise payroll, there's already like a volume of around $4 million annualized when it comes to that. So we have to consider. Sometimes people like to tell me that the Zebec and Stellar partnership was a flop. I don't really think so in that sense, right? I mean, at least there's something going on there. And we haven't even really seen yet what Zebec could do with Ripple because, yes, Zebec has a partnership with Ripple. I'm not joking. But we haven't really seen too much about that yet. We have seen what they did with Stellar, which is a partnership, and we've seen, some statistics as of late. But again, we haven't even seen the Ripple effect, no pun intended, but I'm just saying, we haven't even really seen the full kind of picture of what Zebec could do with Ripple. So if it's already doing that type of stuff with Stellar, imagine what it could do with Ripple later on, especially over the long term. So when it comes to Zebec, the recovery, I think, to me at least, seems quite impressive. Like, over the past week, it's almost 30%, which isn't too drastic. I mean, I'm not going to complain about that, but of course, it's still a far cry from its peak last year. The peak last year was around 540 million. In terms of market cap, as of right now, it's around 200 million. So, yeah, we're almost 3 times away from that. But to me, if it just goes back there, I'm already really happy, actually. Now, people like to say, but why, though? It's not even such an impressive movement. It's not even like a 3 times movement. Well, to me, the reason why I would be happy regardless is because sometimes the way I take a look at it is enough is enough. Like, I'm not trying to become the next Warren Buffett or the next Jeff Bezos or whatever. I'm not trying to, do any of that type of stuff. Personally, for me, if it just goes back there, I have really nothing to complain about. But that's just my style. I'm just waiting and still holding. That's really about it. But I'm not telling anyone to do anything. But I'll be sure to make more updates moving forward. So I want to say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a very fantastic day.